Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and this was a delightful conversation with a really wonderful friend and somebody that I just respect and admire so much, Ashleigh Gentle. It's been just so fantastic to watch her the last couple of years move all the way up to the world number one position and conquer so many amazing races around the world. I absolutely loved this conversation. It was so great to have her back on the show. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. Speaking of success, have you ever tried fast food? It's a high-performance fuel made from 100% real food. No more bloated feelings or crashes. With their unique optimal energy release system, you get consistent energy. Dive into their Galacto Gel, Galacto Gummy, or the Hydrator and taste the real difference. Give them a go and let me know what you think. You can write me on any of the social platforms. I'd love your feedback. You're out there training hard and racing, and I want to know how you feel on fast food. And remember, your mission is fast food's mission, so don't miss out. All right, today's guest, well, she's a legend in the world of triathlon, an Australian prodigy who made waves early in her career, clinching silver at the Junior World Championships in both 2007 and 2008, and then she went on and struck gold at the Junior World Champs in Budapest in 2010. She then went on to have an outstanding ITU World Cup career. She won her first World Cup career the following year after winning Junior World Champs, and for almost a decade, she's been at the pointy end of the sport, taking home titles like the World Triathlon Grand Final in 2018 at the Gold Coast on a home turf, which was a huge one for her. She's a dual Australian Olympian, representing Australia in Rio in 2016 and again in Tokyo in 2021. And she's won the holy grail of Australian triathlon, the Noosa Multi-sport Festival Triathlon, 9 times, going for a 10th in a couple of weeks. 2 years ago, she pivoted to the middle distance and crushed it. Out of the 5 PTO Championships, she's won 3 and finished second twice. Add to that, she's won or been on the podium nearly every race she's started for the past 2 years. An incredible transition up in the distance. She's been sitting at the world number 1 for most of the year. But just this week, she slid to number 2, right behind Annie Hug. But let's be honest, when you're at that altitude, it's all the same. Off the track, she's no less remarkable. She's recently married Josh Amberger, who was on the show just a couple of weeks ago, and a man that I just admire and respect tremendously. They're an amazing power couple in the world of triathlon. So without further ado, welcome. Thanks for joining me once again on the Greg Bennett Show, Ashleigh Gentle. How are you, Ash?
I'm good, thanks, Greg. Yeah, really nice to be back on the show.
Wow. I tell you what, that was a long intro. Like I was saying pre-show, I wanted to make it shorter, but you have been busy. 2 years since I last had you on the show. And like we were talking about right before we hit the record button, you were contemplating what direction do you go with your career? Do you go to Paris Olympics or whatever? Man, it's flown by.
Yeah, it has. It seems like a long time, but also a short time. Yeah, 2 years ago, when I was speaking to you, like I just, didn't really know what to do with my career. I guess it was at a tough spot where, I hadn't achieved what I'd like to have at the Olympics. And, that was making me think maybe I should try again in Paris. But yeah, I ended up moving up to middle distance. And I think that's where I knew I would go, to be honest. And yeah, no regrets. It's been probably the best 2 years of my life and just had so much fun as well. So, yeah, it's been incredible.
Yeah, I remember we recorded that episode and I actually remember kind of sitting and chatting with you for another 15, 20 minutes after we finished recording and talking about your future. And in your gut, I could hear the way you were talking. You knew the direction you were going. There's very few that ever tick all the boxes they wanted at the Olympics. I actually I think all of us go, yeah, we went, but I would have loved it a little bit more. So it's never an easy one to walk away from. But, I mean, you have to feel a sense of, all right, I listened to my gut and it was the right decision.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I just got to a point where, Yeah, I was really appreciative of all my experiences in short course. Like, I had the time of my life. I started from a very young age. Yeah, my first World Championships I was only 16 years old, so I was so young. And yeah, I hit the World Series circuit, yeah, in my early 20s. I think I might have been 20 in my first one, or 21. So I think I just had to look back and be like, yeah, like that was amazing. That was an incredible like short course experience. And you don't always get what you want. That's high performance sport. And sometimes you just need to walk away and be like, what's done is done, and what else is there for me? And I think that there is definitely no regrets, because I did recognize that I could be missing other opportunities if I still held on to this dream. And yeah, it's been a great 2 years, and I think that I just need to keep going forward. Still, I don't think I'll ever really let go that I didn't achieve what I wanted to at the Olympics, but yeah, you have to move past that and just look what's ahead and just be appreciative of what you did get to do and what's to come.
It's a champion's mindset. I have a couple of things I want to quickly add. If I look at my own career, there were two races that stood out that I never won, especially in the non-drafting world. They were Noosa and Escape from Alcatraz. Got second and thirds and all sorts of things. Here are you winning Noosa potentially for the 10th time coming up, not to put any more pressure on you than you already are, and then you've won Escape from Alcatraz. So you've won all of those. And the second part I want to add is I remember running with Javier Gomez, and it must have been in about 2007. And we'd both had been doing pretty well for a while. And yet both of us were complaining that not complaining, a bit saying things that we wished we'd done, which we hadn't. And at the end of the conversation, we almost just had to laugh, because it really is just an athlete mindset that you always want for more. But before we go any further, I do have to give a belated congrats for you and Josh getting married. Was that about a year ago? When did you guys get married?
Yeah, thank you. It was the 12th of November last year. It was a little bit delayed due to COVID restrictions and whatnot. So finally, got married last year, and I had a great time. It was so much fun. Still think very fondly upon that day, and it's coming up to a year. So time really does fly, but
congrats.
Not much has changed though.
No, nothing changes.
Yeah, an awesome celebration.
Throw some kids in there and suddenly you realise, now it's real. Now it really
I think that
good.
Would change it a lot more.
But also I want to congratulate you on the fact that last week you guys both won Ironman 70.3 Langkawi. That was huge for the both of you to have a win. Has that happened before? Have you both won at the same race together before?
I'm not sure. I think potentially we have it at a smaller type race, but I guess at the Asia Pacific Championships was kind of cool, like a championship race. I think that, it's very rarely been done, a married couple at that 70.3 championship race. So it was a really cool experience. I was just super happy for Josh, to be honest. Like, of
course,
he puts in a lot of work, and he does a lot for me, and I was just so happy to see him rewarded after, he hasn't had, many wins the last couple of years. So to be able to see him do that and just really race the race to his strengths, he really reveled in that and really enjoyed, just going off the bike, and had, Mike Phillips and a few other strong men to accompany him. And to be able to kind of get that done together was great. I saw him in second, and then I saw him in the lead out in the run course. And I was like, wow, I really better keep this together.
Don't screw it up.
I can't screw this up. So I was very glad to get to that finish line and see him. And it was super fun.
It was really cool, because I had only just recorded the episode with him maybe the week before. And he was saying, I'm going to Langkawi, and then I'm going off to Europe. And we were talking a bit on that episode, it had been a while between drinks for him in terms of a win. And I don't know, when I have these conversations with you all and I get emotionally invested, because you get to know somebody quite well. And then so for when he went and had the win and then you went and, did your thing, I don't know. I was truly excited for both of you. And it's one of those that I think you get to hold on to for quite a while. Like, it's like, yeah, even if it never happens again, you got to have that. Most couples would love to have that happen once. So it's really cool. But now you're preparing for Noosa. Like I said in the intro, going for 10, right? I've got that right, haven't I?
Yeah, it's wild. It seems surreal that is even possible. I don't know if I feel that old, but I could have.
I know, I don't see you as that old either. I'm like,
yeah, I guess I started quite young. I did my first one when I was 18 or 19, I think. So
yeah,
I guess being so young when I started, I think it will be my 13th Noosa Triathlon. I had a couple of second places in there as well. And yeah, it's coming up quickly. It's an interesting time of year because, if I'm honest, it's been another long year and there's only so many times you can really peak. So I kind of get to this point where Noosa Triathlon is just thinking of that and the atmosphere and the people. I just really has to motivate me because by this point I'm like very tired and just trying to get through a little bit, to be completely honest with you. So it kind of like motivates me to keep training to get to Noosa. And then once I get there, it's just like, yeah, I'm so glad that I'm here because the atmosphere is second to none and I just absolutely love it. So it's the perfect way to end the season for me. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it every single time. So
yeah, I'm amazed that you can that was always my big thing for the longest time, to kind of have my major races in sort of July, August, September, potentially October, and then go, another month. I was like, I can't do it. It was always so hard to try and bring out another big performance. But you've been able to do it and consistently do it, which is really cool. And for everybody listening, if you're in the US, Europe, wherever you are, if you ever want a destination event, it's not just a race. The week of just incredible events that are going on, go to Noosa. You won't be let down. It really is one of the great sporting events in the world. They still have a lot going on, right? That whole week before I sell it too hard. Yeah.
The huge festival.
Yeah. So please go check it out. Now, did you watch Kona Ironman last weekend? And
yes, I did. I definitely did.
What were your thoughts?
It was incredible. I missed bits and pieces of the bike because I didn't actually set an alarm, but I was up at I woke up at 2 or 3 or something, which is wild. I do not usually do that. It's very early for me. I kind of tuned in when I woke up and they were exiting the water or just had gotten to the bike and missed portions of the bike, just trying to get a little bit extra sleep in.
Yeah, it's a long day to watch every minute of it. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's a very long day, but they make it look so easy, right? I'm always so incredibly inspired and I'm like, maybe I should do this one day, but I also think these women, they've prepped for this all year and they're absolutely just crushing it and making it look a lot easier than it actually is. It was obviously an incredibly fast day and, just so dominant by Lucy Charles. That was, pretty incredible.
I think she had the whole triathlon world rooting for her. It's like nobody wants to see somebody get 4 seconds and still not get it. And I think we were all blowing at her back, if you like, trying to blow her to the finishing line. And it really was a remarkable performance.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, those people coming from behind, someone like Anna Haug, it's terrifying having someone like that running you down. She is an absolutely incredible athlete and everyone in the field, it was obviously a great field. Women's triathlon at the moment is just in such a good space. I feel so privileged to be able to race pretty much all of those women on the PTO circuit this year. And a lot of these Ironman athletes that are so dominant in Ironman, a lot of the women, they're also just so fast as well. So they cross over to the 70.3 and PTO distance. So easily it seems. So, it would have been, Lucy was obviously having, the best day. It's just probably, I'm not saying it would have been easy for her, but she was obviously found that kind of flow and was just in so much control. But I'm sure it's still quite unnerving having someone like Anna Haug running you down. But, she still had plenty of space in the end, and it was just overall, fascinating race to watch.
Yeah, it was a tremendous strength. And like you said, Annie Haug running a 2:48.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of Kona Ironmans we've seen where only one or two men get in the 240s, it's so, and then to run a 2:48. And when we unpack Lucy's 8:24, if you do a 4:12 half, that's going to have you win most 70.3s around the world.
That's not bad, is it? I didn't think of it like that.
And she's gone back to back and gone an 8:24. It's just, it really is mind-boggling. But I got to say, Ashleigh, when you look at your results from, like I said, those 5 PTO performances, all the names we've mentioned, so Lucy, Annie Haug, we haven't mentioned Taylor Knibb, this is your group. It's like the 4 or 5 of you throw in Laura Phillip and a couple of, it's like that is the group. And so I can imagine you sitting there on the couch as you wake up with your morning coffee and you haven't trained specifically for that event, so I'm not throwing you in the mix, but you must think, wow, this is my generation and this is who I'm going to be racing for the next period of time, however long that is. I mean, was that kind of feeling that these girls probably better than anybody when it comes to racing?
Yeah, it's been really great to be able to race all of those women at the PTO races. And I think that's what they were aiming for too, right? To put on these races where it attracts kind of everyone to come to their races. And over the last 2 years, I've definitely done that. And I've obviously never done an Ironman, let alone Kona. So, I would never compare myself to those women when they're doing that. Their specialty, I guess, preparing for that race each year, I was more just, watching in admiration and just thinking, wow, the sport's in a good place. And it's pretty cool that I have raced all of them the last couple of years and, kind of starting to get to know their strengths, weaknesses. And it's a bit of a different ball game, of course, over the Ironman. But, watching it unfold, having raced all of them was, a pretty cool experience for sure.
The thing I took away from it before we move on and talk about you specifically, but it was simply just they're racing from start to finish. It's like it's an all-out effort. There's no like I'm going to pace myself for this bit and then push and then pace. It's flat out. You can't do an 8:24 or like I said, back-to-back 4:12s without going as hard as you can at every moment of that entire race. Yeah,
and it's so fascinating because it's just like, wow, it's such a long time to be pushing at that limit.
Yeah.
And, kind of thinking to myself, I thought people blew up in these races.
That's what I thought.
They're unstoppable. Obviously Taylor Knibb would probably tell you different and tell us that she blew up, but I'm like, it was still pretty dead.
You still did an 8:35 on your inaugural
Ironman.
Exactly.
I didn't see any meltdown when I watched that. It was incredibly impressive. So I don't know, they need to turn up the heat more or something because it was just like, these women are just crushing it.
Well, impressive all around to all the women that raced. The statistics that are coming out from the event itself, not just the performances on race day, which were apparently just incredible, age group women, professional women, the numbers of viewers was off the charts. We got to watch outstanding performances all around. So big shout out to everyone involved. But now I just want to quickly recap your journey. Rewind the clock for viewers for listeners that haven't listened to your episode when you were last on, which was episode 97. And this is actually episode, I think, 199, 200. We're right on that cut. So go back to 2008, 2021, and you can listen to Ashleigh where she was contemplating what's next for her journey. But what I like to do real quick is just recap your journey, how you got into the sport, when did you realize you had some ability, and when did you sort of pull the trigger and go all in?
I guess as a young athlete, well, even just as a kid, I definitely I've got two brothers, I'm a middle child, and was always really active with them. We played out on the street most days and just was involved in a lot of sport through school, out of school. And I guess I probably came from like a team sport background, if I'm completely honest. I played a lot of netball and a lot of touch football and kind of made representative teams for touch football before anything else. So I guess a bit of a different kind of background, but I definitely really loved athletics and cross country through school. So that's where I kind of landed in future representative teams. And I was running with Jenny Alcorn, who is the head coach at Surfers Paradise Triathlon Club on the Gold Coast. And I guess gone into the sport just because I felt a bit left out, not swimming and cycling like everyone else. So I was about 14 when I started to swim, and I'd done, basic, like learn to swim for safety as most Australian kids do when they're younger. But kind of late to get into the pool and actually learn to swim properly as an Australian. That's quite uncommon. I know 14 still sounds young, but you know what it's like here. Everyone's, 5 or 6 years old and tearing it up. So, also got on a bike and just absolutely loved it. Like I obviously did, because I did my first triathlon soon after that, when I would have been, 14 or 15. And I think it ended up being, some sort of race just coincidentally that took me to like regionals or states. And I kind of progressed up that ladder quite quickly. And I guess as a kid, I obviously enjoyed the experience, but I also was able to race with the state team and the national team. And obviously I thought that was pretty exciting, and kind of honestly haven't stopped since that first triathlon just at Ravenna. So it's pretty crazy.
That's awesome. I mean, and it was I remember asking you, what was your first job? And I think you did a running race and got paid $500 or something. and it was like, that was my first job.
Well, I guess thinking a little bit deeper, I think me and my brothers had some sort of paper route.
You've been thinking about that for 2 years.
I don't know. I think we did that at some stage. But when you're probably getting paid like $1 for that, and I go to like a fun run and I do all right and get paid $500 or something. That as like a young person, a teenager, you're just like, what? That's amazing. So a good incentive to keep doing some fun runs and getting a bit of pocket money.
I love that. And it is a really fun episode if people want to go back and listen to that, because we do have a bit of a laugh on that one. But I want to now fast forward, and right up to our conversation 2 years ago, and the change to leave Olympic distance. We talked about a little bit at the top of the show, not Olympic distance, Olympics. What was that transition like for you when it comes to your training, your mentality towards the sport, and even the team that you were building, coaching and everything else? Was it a lot to take on, that change?
Yes and no. I think that I was in touch with David Tilbury-Davis, and he took me on as an athlete, and he's still my coach now. And I remember just thinking, at the start of 2022, just don't worry about anything. Like, don't worry about trying to get new sponsors. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about anything, all of those other things. Just try and do what makes you happy, and just go out there and don't be fearful. Just give it a go. And I guess the PTO had come out with their couple of races and the Collins Cup, and that was coming up in, I think, Edmonton was July of 2022. And I was like, okay, there's a goal. What do I need to do to get on the start line of that race? And obviously there's very established middle distance athletes who had been accumulating PTO points. That was what you needed. You needed to be ranked inside the top 30 or 40 to even get a look in to be at that start list. So I'm like, okay, kind of just looked at the races that were at the start of 2022 and just thought, okay, let's do some of these races. I did Clash Miami.
Crushed that. You crushed that. My goodness. Remember that? Didn't you win that by 10 minutes or something, that Clash Miami? It was only a 3-hour race.
Clash Miami, that was, pretty early on. And it was a funny distance. It was kind of in between Olympic distance and 70.3. So it was actually perfect for me. It was a good stepping stone because I know it doesn't probably seem that long to most people, but I kind of still had a bit of a fear around the distance because I'd just done Olympic distance for so long. And over the last, even 5 years of my career, it was kind of getting shorter. There was more sprint distance races getting introduced, mixed relay. So it's just getting shorter and shorter. And I was like, I think I was just very respectful of the distance and the established athletes that had been kind of honing that for so long, and just knowing like it's not just that easy to just double the distance and be okay. It's still quite an endurance event, and they're pushing so hard for that whole time, the whole 4 hours. So yeah, Clash Miami was a great stepping stone. And it was also quite favourable for me because it was ridiculously hot.
Oh, that was the one where, yes, I remember Emma Pallant-Brown. That was the one she collapsed and really hurt herself, right? She fall off? She just fell down.
Yeah, when she was running, thankfully, not like on the bike or anything.
And then Sarah Perez-Sala, I think she had something happen as well. I think there was quite
yes, there was a few DNFs, unfortunately. And for me, I kind of had come off the back of an Australian summer, a Queensland summer, and you know what that's like. It's pretty brutal and pretty much the best thing for like a hot race at the start of the year. So, it was hot, but I was like, it was quite good for me to be able to kind of thrive in those conditions and, collect some really good points because that was, I guess, rated quite highly. And, went on to Oceanside and also did challenge the race in Samarin. So I did 3 pretty good races that was, good enough for me to even be on the start line of Edmonton, the inaugural of PTO Tour event. So that was like, pretty mind-blowing that I was even I made it to the start line. I was, quite proud of myself and just really happy to be there. And then when I actually won that event, I was just like, my post-race interview after that race, I don't think I ever want to watch that back, but I was pretty emotional. But it was the best feeling in the world. So
well, the prize money was huge. I mean, it was $100,000 for the win or something.
Yeah.
Which is, for professional triathletes, for everybody listening, that it really is impactful. Well, for anybody, it's a lot of money, but you've worked 15 years at that point of being an athlete, and you finally get these bigger paydays, which you're like, oh, nice, right? And it was over such a strong field. Paula Finley on home soil, Chelsea Sodaro, who went on to win Kona Ironman World Champs that year, Laura Phillip, Holly Lawrence, everybody was there. Really, Nicola Spirig, top 10. I mean, it must have been a really, really special feeling.
Yeah, so for me, that race is particularly special because I think back at that and it was more just, yes, it was amazing to win and it was an amazing opportunity to win that prize pool. But for me, it was that feeling of just like being back. I had this fire in my belly that had honestly gone out a little bit. And it's obviously you're an athlete, so you know what I'm trying to describe, but it's also indescribable. Like this feeling where you feel like you can finally push your body again. You finally have that fire in your belly, and it's like my mind, my body was, in cohesion with my mind, and that kind of together to be able to push myself again and just feel like I was doing something that I truly love. It's so hard to try and put into words. This is where I need Josh. He's good at this. He's good with words. But yeah, it's just was such an incredible feeling. And I think that if I had that race and that feeling and not have won, I honestly think that I would have been just as happy, because yes, of course, I'm so grateful to have won, but I mean that feeling inside me was just like, that's what I needed to feel. And that was what I needed to really go like, okay, yeah, this is it. I love this. And it gave me so much motivation and inspiration to just, keep going and know that I made the right decision. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing what it did for me mentally to forge forward, I guess, and push myself even more. Like it was my first big, middle distance race. And I've just kind of learnt so much from then on in.
I just think you spoke so well then, by the way. I don't think you need Josh to say anything for you, because it's not only what you said, it's how you said it. I think everybody listening, we can hear the emotion and everything of what it meant to you. And as a former athlete myself, I do get what you're saying, because sometimes you feel like you're out in the wilderness and, am I done? Do I have anything more? And then suddenly you get this, oh, I can still do this. I still do belong. This is awesome. And you need that little bit of belief in yourself that just can empower you to go forward. And then from there, you went on Collins Cup and then the PTO US Open at the end of the year. It still wasn't over. It really did propel you.
Yeah, definitely. It was just so surreal. But in other ways, though, I'm just, I made the decision to keep pursuing triathlon and do middle distance racing, but just in general, keep pursuing triathlon, because no matter what other people may have thought, or I knew that they were thinking, deep down inside me, I must have known, like I still believed in myself. And I'll never be an overly confident person. I don't think I'll ever outwardly show that confidence, but I think I had enough self-belief deep inside me. It was very deep, but obviously still had it enough to be like, let's give this a go. And then once I kind of felt that, feeling again in Edmonton, it was what I needed to have that kind of bubble a bit further up towards the surface. And and a really fun experience in Collins Cup, PTO kind of bringing together everyone from the different continents. And it was a really fun experience, and then kind of moved on to Dallas, where that was insane.
That was insane. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I remember the Dallas, the athletes that raced, and that top 10 was, actually I'll bring it up here. You got Taylor Knibb in second, Lucy Charles Barclay in third, Holly Lawrence in fourth, Lisa Norden in fifth, Flora Duffy in sixth. The names it is the who's who of women's triathlon in the past decade. And it was just, Edmonton was special, as you've just decided, but that was almost like cementing it, surely, winning the US Open at the end of the year.
I think too, because it was just, the conditions were extremely difficult. The swim, the water was hot. The bike was, flat and multiple laps, but, I was uncomfortable coming out of the water, and I had swum I swum very well to come out with who I did in that group behind someone like Taylor and Lucy. I was in that front group with, people like Paula and Flora and
great swim.
For me, that was great, but I also think maybe I did overswim a bit, because I was like, wow, I got onto the bike and I was very uncomfortable and hot. And, those time trial helmets don't really help sometimes, or the one I was wearing last year. And it's just uncomfortable, and it's just like forgot, the power. I was just like, okay, just ride to where you think your limits are. And yeah, there was girls up the road, and I kind of just raced my own race. And then once I got into the run, it was quite insane. I felt amazing. And yeah, I didn't actually feel that hot once I was out in the run. I could cool myself at the aid stations. And yeah, Taylor Nibb had a huge deficit on us. And yeah, didn't even think that I'd be able to catch Lucy, let alone Taylor. So to be able to come away with that win in that race and come from, I guess, so far back was, yeah, and I don't think anyone thought it was possible. So it was pretty surreal to be able to do that and have an experience in, those super tough conditions. Yeah,
that was amazing. Just looking at the splits, you ran a 104 high, and the next sort of split was a 111 or 113s, 112s. Nobody's under 110. And you've gone a 104 high on that one in the run, which was absolutely outstanding. Where did you catch Taylor Nibb? Because it was only, at the end of the day, 45 seconds or 50 seconds. I'm sorry, just over a minute.
Maybe 2K to go or something.
Wow.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, outstanding performance again. And then was it at the end of 2022 you went home and did Noosa again, or was that it?
Yeah, I came home and just prepared for Noosa. So, yeah, I think Dallas was one of those races actually. Like it did take a lot out of me. I just had to kind of come home and recover because, it was a super hot race. And even though I felt amazing on the run, and I don't think, well, clearly the heat didn't affect me like it did some of the other women. You still tried to respect the fact that I'd, dug pretty deep, obviously, to get that result. Came home and relaxed for a while.
But it's also nice, you get to the end of 2022. You've been a successful athlete for 10 to 15 years prior, spending a lot of time sort of on the World Triathlon circuit and chasing the Olympic dream and that kind of thing. And you've had some decent sponsors and things, but to actually finish a year and be like, okay, I actually feel like a professional athlete. Like I can look at my bank account and feel like somewhat of a triathlon. It can be tough, but to have those couple of big wins and some other success along, was there a little bit of, okay, now I can even up my ante a little bit more and get ready for 2023?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously I'd put in an incredible amount of hard work, but it doesn't, I was also just so grateful that, the PTO had given all the athletes this opportunity to earn that kind of money. And, they generally want to raise the game in triathlon and make sure that triathletes get paid a decent wage. And, to be rewarded like that is absolutely incredible. It's not something I ever imagined. I didn't get into the sport of triathlon to be, let's get rich. It's not something that many people think about, and especially me as just like a teenager. It's not the reason I do triathlon. No. But to be able to make a proper living from the sport is not lost on me. I'm exceptionally grateful. And it's obviously a lot of hard work, but you also have to have the people there to give you those opportunities. And PTO did do that, and they're genuinely wanting to help raise the game for athletes. And it's pretty cool to see. We had an extra race this year, so 3 of the PTO Tour races, and there's 2 locked away for next year, it seems. But they want to make it more. They want to make more of a tour and more races.
Awesome.
And make it bigger, I guess. They've got the live stream already, obviously, but they want to make sure there's more cameras out there to kind of showcase more the athletes along the race. So the vision is there, and I think that it's an exciting time.
Yeah, big shout out to Sam Renouf and the PTO and everything they're doing. And the telecasts were fantastic. Honestly, everybody I was talking to, everybody's texting each other in all the races, especially this year, of just how great the coverage has been. and what they're trying to do and are doing with the PTO is absolutely outstanding. So big shout out. And I hope you don't mind me just talking about the finances. I'm certainly not meaning to say, wow, look at you, aren't you just so lucky? It's more just saying it's just great that the sport's in a place where, like to your point, people are trying hard to give athletes the opportunity to really have a decent income. Anyway, we move into 2023. There's no slowing down. You've hit this year flying Hell of the West early on. For people who don't know, that is the name. Hell of the West is it's tough. Is it Gundawindi, the back of Brisbane? Where is that?
A bit further out from Brisbane. It's about a 5-hour drive.
A 5-hour drive. Okay, that's not that far when you look at Australia. That's just over the hill. Yeah. But you start with a win there. That was early on in the year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty early on. I'm a nervous racer at the start of the year. Yeah. I would have been toing and froing whether to race that for sure, but Josh convinced me in the end, I think. It was a cool experience. And even if I don't race next year, I think I'll go out there just to see all the country kids. They're so enthusiastic and so great. Great atmosphere.
Yeah. But then was the focus again in this year, the PTO events and a couple of 70.3s when you mapped out your calendar?
Yeah, definitely. I guess when I was thinking about it, it was like my A races were the PTO races. There's no hiding that for sure. Mm-hmm. PTO Ibiza was fairly early on, I guess. It was in May. Mm-hmm. I'm not too confident at the start of the year. I feel like, I take a pretty decent break at the end of the year and feel like I'm quite slow to get back and get my fitness. But, it was a great race in Ibiza, and it's a pretty cool place to be able to do a triathlon, to be honest. So Ibiza was the focus at the start of the year. And then once I got that done, it was definitely, I did some other races, and the big focuses definitely were doing the PTO US Open in Milwaukee and then the Asian Open in Singapore. They were only 2 weeks apart. So, once I got into the middle of the year, I was at a pretty high fitness level, but still really focused towards those 2 races in August.
Yeah. How do you think you went when you look at you had the second to Annie Hug at the European Open in Ibiza, and then you had the second at the US Open to Taylor Knibb, and then you come out and win at the Asian Open ahead of Annie Hug that time. If you were to look at your season highlights, what does it feel like?
Yeah, so I guess in Ibiza, it was a bit of a rough lead in. I wasn't feeling amazing. I was a little bit sick, and I felt like when I first got to Europe, 2 weeks before Ibiza, I had a pretty horrible race experience at a smaller race. And I shouldn't have done it, to be honest, because we landed on Wednesday and I raced on Saturday or Sunday in Europe.
Brutal.
And, Josh is always fine. He travels super well. He's super, resilient in those instances. And for me, I just felt, horrific. And we joke about it now because sometimes I get a bit dramatic, and I told Josh the trip was off. So, 2 weeks into the trip, I was already saying we're going to go home. So, I get a bit dramatic sometimes to Josh, and we laugh about it at the end of the year. No, the trip wasn't off. It was all good. Just set things straight in Ibiza and was pretty happy about it. Anna Haug, there was no beating her that day. She beat me by a couple of minutes. I was like, oh, that was brutal. I felt like it was great and she was phenomenal, but I also felt like I had so much more to give. I didn't really feel like I had that spring in my step that I knew that I could work on, and with extra fitness and more racing. So, definitely Milwaukee was a tough one. I raced 100% of my ability that day, but I definitely feel like I was just on the edge the whole day. I felt like it was an Olympic distance effort for me, but for 3.5 hours or 3 hours 40.
An extra hour and a half. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I really feel like I was just on the limit. And, you know, that's not hard to feel when you've got Taylor Knibb drilling at the front for sure. I'm sure she had something to do with that.
Yeah.
So, but I think that the 2 weeks after in Asian Open, I think that was good for me because I think I allowed myself to probably rest a bit more before Milwaukee because it was, you know, such a huge goal. Maybe I had, you know, I was just really kind of pushing those limits in training and just making sure that I got the best out of myself. But then sometimes that can, you know, work against you in some instances where you kind of just need to respect your body a bit more and rest potentially a little bit more. So I think because I had done Milwaukee 2 weeks prior and had a 17-hour flight from LAX to Singapore to look forward to, I definitely made sure that I was more well rested. I respected the fact that I'd put in a massive effort in Milwaukee. I had to do this crazy travel to Singapore. So once I got to Singapore, instantly it was a strange feeling. I just felt like at ease. I was in these conditions that I love. It was hot and humid and it was just really good vibes. I just felt at ease and I think it was a good sign that I was going to maybe have a great race. And obviously I'm not just saying this because I won, but I definitely felt a better flow in Asian Open. It was just one of those days where I was like, okay, I think I'm on here. And unfortunately, Anna had a mechanical on the bike and she got, lost some time there. But I definitely felt like I took control, especially on that bike, which was really good for me. It was quite hilly and hard and multi-lap. So I think that it suited me quite well. And I guess, capitalized on that and was able to hold on and with a strong run. So, all different, really different experiences across all 3 races. But, really cool to be able to race the women that I did all year. And I think that that's what really motivates me.
Yeah.
Having those big goals, having those, 3 big races where I can really focus in on them and knowing I'm going to race the best in the world, it's definitely helped me get the best out of myself.
Yeah. And you moved into world number 1, and you've been there for a good chunk of the year. Was there a good feeling when you first saw your name at the top or did you not care?
I think it was a bit surreal. I think that, I just felt like I was quite honoured to be there. I thought that, I had obviously done really well at the PTO, which are platinum events. So if you do well at them, you're going to score well. So, seeing the record day though in Kona, knowing Anna or Taylor could potentially, take the world number 1 if they were to win. I thought that they would have to potentially win to get enough points, but it was so fast and they did so exceptionally well that even Anna's second place was good enough to take the number 1. And, she deserves that. She's had the most incredible year. And it's fire in my belly, to be honest.
Nice. I love it. Yeah.
But I also am realistic and think,
because there's nothing you can do about it now, right? Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're second, you finished the year second with that because there's no other platinum. Yeah. There's nothing else you can do to try and win.
There's no other races that I could possibly score better than my 3 scores that I have now.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, Ashleigh, I just think it's been an outstanding couple of years, but obviously moving all the way up to world number 1, where I don't know how long you were there for, but it felt like I kept going back to the PTO scoreboard and there you were on top and Taylor Knibb was kind of there and Annie Hug has always been there. But when you are, when you throw these names, Annie Hug, Taylor Knibb, Lucy Charles Barclay, Laura Phillip, Paula Finley, Daniela Riff, you're there. And you're the one that's making a big statement. The way you've spoken, it's got me thinking a lot about how I was emotionally as an athlete, and I always needed Laura, who was probably more stable. And I often needed to get a couple of good races under my belt early in the year to then remember that I can do this. and even when you said you won the Asian champs and felt better after Milwaukee, I often felt better the week or two after doing a race, and my second race would often be a lot better. And a lot of it was just, I could just relax because I wasn't questioning myself. But if a month or two went by, then I'd start questioning myself again. Like, no, you're okay. But how is, this launching up to world number one, and how did that sort of change your approach to races? Did you find yourself having to do more media? Has there been more pressure from external sponsors and everything else? Has that changed at all?
I guess in a sense, there's probably more pressure as, the better I've done over the last couple of years. But it's actually coincided with me being in a better spot myself, in the sense that I've definitely let go a lot of those pressures and potentially the fear I had that was probably holding me back for a lot of my career. I think that now I'm just at a point where it sounds so cliche and just so simple, but I'm just trying to do the best I can every day. And sometimes, a lot of the times it's not that pretty. It's actually not that exceptional. But if you back those days up day after day, it can turn into something great. And I think that that's just been kind of my mantra, because I don't know, I'd probably have to talk to my coach more. But if I look at my training, I think that I'm just consistently average. I don't think that there's days where, I'm actually that exceptional. There might be a few days in like a really big build where I'm like, okay, I get something back from myself to think, that was actually quite good. You're on the right track. Keep going, Ash. But a lot of the times it's just like putting in those days of work.
Just keep turning up. Keep chopping wood, as Simon Whitfield always says.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think yourself as more of a trainer or a racer? Are you?
Definitely a racer.
Yeah.
I think I am very good at being consistent. I do put a lot of work into just measuring my effort in a sense. I try and make sure that I don't be a hero in a lot of sessions so I can back up the next day. So I guess that's just something I've learned over time. I think David, my coach, he'd probably love if I had a bit more communication on Training Peaks. He's probably listening to this, and I would love a bit more feedback. But I've said to him numerous times, like, if you don't hear too much, it's just because everything's okay. There's nothing disastrous. There's nothing amazing. I'm humming along okay. And I think that I've become quite good at making decisions myself, just day to day. I love waking up and just seeing the training that David's given me. He's really good at communication, so we speak, most weeks, but generally, it's also up to me to make sure I do the right thing day to day. And I think that when I make those right decisions, I'm able to back up the next day. And that consistent work over a long period of time has definitely started to pay dividends. And but then, those big blocks before, like, the Milwaukee and Asian Open, I kind of get this. I look back now and I probably definitely kind of get this, not narrow-mindedness, but I definitely feel like I'm very focused. And Josh senses that within me. I kind of sense that with myself. But we also just have so much fun with it that it kind of makes it easier. I feel like, there's not much happening in our lives. We're in those training camps in Europe. It's swim, bike and run. But, when you've got Josh there with you, life is pretty entertaining, to say the least. So, it's always a good time when you can hang out with him and work hard.
Oh, I love that. Well put. Do you train to data much? Like, are you using a lot of the wearables and tools and everything, or you just go by feel?
I have a power meter on my bike, a Quark. I have a GPS watch that tells me how fast I'm running. I use heart rate sometimes, but that's mainly just when I'm on the treadmill. So there's a bit more data around the workout. But a lot of it is, I guess, we have data and David does, I guess, have a scientific approach to a sense, but I feel like that I put the responsibility on him on that. I just trust that he's, looking at the best ways for me to train and looking at the latest data and the latest ways to get the best out of myself. But on a day-to-day basis, I use basic data. I follow the watts for my bike sessions and general pacing on the run, but also definitely to feel, especially on the run, I feel like, it's just I've got a pretty good grasp of how I should be pacing the kind of sessions that David gives me. And I think that that's kind of good in those races too, especially like the hot races or races where the different conditions can change. I think I've got a pretty good awareness of what limit I'm kind of sitting at.
And you mentioned Josh, and I asked him similar questions when he was on, but how are you guys working together to make this work? It's you have your married life and everything else outside of triathlon, but triathlon and your careers are so consuming. What are some of the positives that each of you bring to each other's careers, I guess? Josh is a fun guy. He's humorous and he's a good guy to have around. Do you guys sort of play to each other's strengths to try and help each other in your careers?
I definitely think so, yeah. I would say like at the core, we are very similar and we share the same values and are very aligned in many, many ways. I guess that's how we are, can be married and found that connection to begin with. But as two individuals, I would say that we are very different, but I think that it does complement each other just on a relationship-wise, but then on a day-to-day basis, just being athletes. Like, he's I'm just like smiling so much thinking about this. It has been super fun to be able to share the last couple of years with him a lot more because, before that we were definitely spending so many months and months apart. And, I definitely found like there was some points where I was quite lonely. Even if I was with other people, I think I'm a bit more introverted than Josh and maybe a bit more shy. So I've probably a harder time kind of connecting with people that I don't know. And, he's quite outgoing and literally could like make friends with our mailman if he shows up, enough times. So, having him, there each day has been super fun. And I think that, we are definitely different people but we are, very determined athletes. So we do make compromises at times for each other, but also a lot of the times we just respect that we might have to go separate ways in certain situations if it's best for us individually. And I think that that's been a good thing for us. It's been very healthy. I think that we've been able to, focus on each other's career, help each other where we can, but definitely make sure that we are, not sacrificing too much in detriment to our own careers. And I think that because we have that kind of probably unspoken, to be completely honest, respect for each other and our careers, that kind of can just happen. And it's kind of just landed like that, which has, worked well.
Well, you're definitely a team. It's so evident from speaking to both of you individually, but the way you talk about each other and the way that you are trying to support each other, it's a team. Your win is his win and vice versa. And like we talked about earlier in the show, when you both get to win, it's like, oh, that's really cool. And I think the triathlon world can see that. And as much as you're inspiring as individual athletes, it really is. There's a lot of people that listen to this show that, have their partners maybe in the sport with them. And like Laura and I had each other. And there really is an inspiration in seeing a couple that can work together. And I know it's not always roses. Two tired athletes, there's no way it's always roses. But I love the way that you guys do celebrate each other and you do speak about each other. It really is. It's great to hear. But I want to finish up because I know I've taken a lot of your time, and I want to finish up real quick with some just opinions. Ironman just announced their new prize series for the end of the next year. Probably not a focus for you in the sense that you focused on the middle distance, I assume.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the way that they're doing it? I think they said you got to do 3 Ironmans to score, and they're giving an end of year bonus or something.
Yeah, I saw the announcement. To be honest, I haven't looked through the way that they're kind of doing it too closely. But I think that it's great for the sport, and I think that they're probably seeing the prize money and the bonuses that the PTO have kind of put forward to professional athletes, and they're trying to match it themselves. So I think that that's a win for triathlon. So I think that everyone should be happy. I think that there's 18 races that they kind of plotted out that can count towards their world bonus.
Okay.
So I think that, obviously some of them are Ironman athletes, and you're right. I think 3 of them can be an Ironman event, and I think the Ironman events score more highly than the 70.3s.
Okay.
So I think that it's a big win for Ironman athletes, the ones that do the full distance, and they're going to be rewarded for being able to, do really well over 3 Ironmans, which is, obviously a big ask, but people do it. But I don't see it as like a direct competition to, like, say, the PTO Tour Series, to be completely honest, because I see it more as like the Challenge Series bonus that is already there. They kind of reward you for doing, I guess, their brand's events. And I think that it'll be interesting to see, where certain athletes might pivot. There's some athletes that, might enjoy the Ironman and full distance more and just decide to focus on that and just being good across, say, those 3 big Ironmans. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes, because those, 18 races that they put out are obviously going to, probably be more competitive with more athletes looking to score points at those races. But it's trying to juggle those things, and to be completely honest, you also have to try and not be too greedy, because for me personally, I'm just going to try and make sure that I can be consistently good, and then obviously pick a few A races where I can try and aim to be very good and not do too much more than that, because I think part of this game is also just staying healthy, injury-free, and you get rewarded from doing that and choosing those races where you can try and excel at certain points in the year. Yeah,
stay focused and have intent. I love that. That's really cool. Next opinion. They've split the men and women up for the Ironman World Championships with Nice and Kona. What are your thoughts on that as a obviously we've moved from having both men and women at Kona to women only this year, and they're going to keep alternating. What do you think we should do?
I don't know. I guess I'm not someone who does full distance Ironman, so I'm not sure if I'm the right
but you
person.
Love the sport. You love the sport. You have an opinion.
I still have an opinion, yeah. I think that, a lot of people seem to think that, Kona in particular this year did very well. I think a lot of the women really relished having the standalone women's world championship. And I think that it was a really great vibe there in Kona. But I also think there was overall a sentiment that it would be nice to be able to race as, males and females together, but still have, a standalone day for the women.
Yes.
So I think, like, in my opinion, I think that it would be cool if, if Kona does have this special aura about it and everyone does still want to go there, and it is still supported by the locals, potentially make it men and women on separate days in Kona, but make the World Championship numbers a bit more exclusive. So it is more manageable. But that's also at the sacrifice, of age groupers as well. So I think that, like, the first port of call should be actually to be the age groupers. Would they like to have more spots at their World Championships, or would they rather go to Kona and make it more exclusive? So and it's an interesting discussion, and I think that there's so many people involved, especially the amateur athletes, because ultimately I think that that's what determined it, just the sheer amount of numbers that Ironman put out to have at the World Championships that for the amateur athletes. So it's an interesting discussion.
Oh, I love it. You've thought about it and talked about it a lot, because that was great.
Well, yeah, I think as someone with like a significant other, obviously, in triathlon, I'm like, oh, it'd be so sad if I do go and do Ironman and I'm in Kona or Josh is in Nice and we don't get to experience that together. So I actually see how, that separation of events is sad. And especially at those PTO races the last couple of years, like I have absolutely loved hanging around and watching the men race.
I love both together. That's been for me one of the real joys of a career in sport and everything we've had. I mean, you and Josh met because of the sport. Myself and Laura met because of the sport. We can probably name another 50 couples that we all know. And I've always loved watching the women's race, watching the men's race. I'm just as intrigued on both. And when I watched Nice this year and, Sam Laidlow, and they had amazing performances. And then it was this kind of like, but I felt it. We're missing something still. And I still want to have the women's race separate. Last year, 2022 was the golden year where we actually got to have, the women on was it Friday or Saturday, whatever, day before, and the men were the next day. That was really cool. Now, obviously that's a lot to put on the local community. But if there was some way we could do that, like you said, I think that'd be the best.
For sure.
But great answer. I want to finish just quickly with the final four. And these ones I hope, you can sort of reflect on a little bit. But what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, gosh. I think that I would just say go for it and just stress less. You'll be fine.
Stress less. Great advice.
I think as a super young athlete, I had no worries in my life at all. I had zero anxiety. I think like as soon as I got a little bit older, that kind of started creeping in and lost that, fearfulness and carefreeness about myself for a while there. So I just probably tell myself to let it go. You'll be fine.
I love that. That's right. You know what Laura first said to me in 2000 or whatever, 99 when we got together, and she said, Greg, because I was like you, anxiety was often crippling me, and it was like, Greg, nobody cares about you. I was like, well, that sounds a bit harsh, but what she meant was, and it's kind of freeing when somebody says that to you, that nobody cares about you in the sense that they care when they're talking directly to you, but then they go off and they've got their own stuff. And the more that you realize, for me, it was freeing in the sense of, okay, just go out there and do your best, and nobody's going to remember if you had a bad race. No, some might remember a good race, but honestly, people go about their business. So anyway.
Yeah, and you can't please everyone too. It's just life. You just have to be yourself and be comfortable with it. And I think that, as I've definitely got older, especially in the last few years, to be honest, it's taken me until I've reached my 30s to actually feel 100%, like comfortable in my own skin. And it takes some people a long time to get there, but that's okay, I guess. As long as you get there eventually, it's part of, I guess, getting older and, living those experiences and learning from them.
The golden 30s. I love it. All right. 3 people you'd want to have dinner with, non-family, living or dead.
Okay. So I'm going to be, to be honest, I'm going to be honest with you and say I'm not going to invite anyone famous because I know myself. I would just be too shy to be able to engage in any kind of conversation with anyone that I don't particularly know, and particularly if they're a bit famous or like, So I'm probably just going to choose my bridesmaids for my wedding last year, and there was 4 of them, so they'll have to delegate one person not to make it, or maybe we can have a rotation.
You can have 4. We'll let you have 4.
They're all over the world. Like that's one thing I just absolutely loved about school. You see your friends every single day, but now we're like, these are 4 people that I met through school and like dear friends of mine, but we all live completely different lives now. So to be able to have oh yeah, can we make it a weekly dinner?
Oh,
we
I
live
love
all
it.
over the place. It would just be the best thing in the world.
I love that, Ash. And I got to add something. You speak incredibly well, and there's no reason for you to ever feel shy, intimidated, or anything about anybody else. And I think even in the 2 years since we last spoke, I think just, slowly but surely, there's this, okay, I got this. I can speak about topics, and I don't know. I'll be your one in the background, just getting you ready for these things, because I think you're doing a fantastic job in the way you speak. So you should never feel intimidated by anybody. And the other thing is, what I've learned in life now that I'm an old man is everybody's bullshitting. And once you realize that, it's really freeing. It's like, oh, okay, nobody knows more than I do, really.
Yeah, that's why I'll just bring my own friends to do that. They won't bullshit me.
No.
And even if they do, I'll know it.
Exactly. All right, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh gosh, 5 years is a tough one at this point of my career, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like, in a sense, that the next 5 years will be, a lot more of what I've been doing, to be completely honest. I think Josh mentioned this too, but it's kind of at a time where, also thinking about, a family, but I'm also thinking, I'm probably doing the best I ever have in my triathlon career. So I definitely want to capitalize on that. And you can only be an athlete for a very, very short part of your life. So I think that I'll still be doing some, swim, bike and run, and hopefully at the highest level.
Love it. All right, final one. How would you use the remaining days if you had 6 months to live? It's not meant to sound awful. It's
Morbid.
Actually no, it's meant to be all right. What am I going to go do?
To be honest, I think that I would do much of what I'm doing right now.
Isn't that awesome?
I would definitely train less so I could spend more time with the people that I love. I would, just be, I wouldn't put myself or my training first. I would try and just connect with, my family and friends, and go to all the corners of Australia and the UK where one of my friends is, and just, see them and spend time with them, but also still, do what I love. And I honestly love the sport so much that I would still be on my bike. I might take Josh along with me if he's lucky. I know he said he would just, keep, go on these long bikes and do this and do that. And that's typical Josh. You'd be like, Josh, you got 6 months to live, and he's out the back on some hills identifying trees and gravel riding for 11 hours a day. So, adventures with Josh, and definitely more time for people that I don't get to see when I'm consumed in my sport.
Oh, Ash, what a great answer. And I think it's a pretty good place to wind this up. Now, what's next? You got Noosa coming up, and then a good break. You guys off to, is it North Stradbroke Island? Where do you guys go camping?
Yeah, so Noosa in nearly 2 weeks now. So I head up there. 40th anniversary of that event too, which is pretty amazing. So that'll be a really big celebration. And then that race is on Sunday, the 5th of November, and then we've booked camping for Moreton that week. Actually, we'll go for about 8 days. So completely switch off.
Have your first anniversary together on the island?
Yeah. On the island, we will actually be pretty secluded, just living in a tent, going fishing, disconnect from the world for 8 days. So it's really, really refreshing. And when we come back, it's the best feeling to have that type of relaxation time on the island. And then I'll still take a bit more time than that. And then look to next year and see what big races are on the calendar and start planning, I guess.
Oh, wow. Well, Ash, I'm a huge fan. You know that. Thanks for coming back on the show. I really appreciate just running through these couple of years. Like we said, it's like, I can't believe it's been 2 years. and it's been a whirlwind. You've done incredible. So again, thanks for coming on and just having a chat. I appreciate you. Yeah,
no worries. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, perfect. All right. For everyone listening, you can find all the show notes, timestamps, and everything else at bennettendurance.com/media. All right. Stay on the line, Ash. I appreciate you.